On count 1, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, 20 years to serve in confinement. On count 10, life in confinement.
Y'all, this is straight up insane. Cash Out, yes, the dude who just got hit with that jaw-dropping 70-year prison sentence, is gone. Found dead in prison, like days after the sentencing. Word on the street, the inmates got to him after learning what he was really locked up for. And let me tell you what they found out. Whew, it's dark. Let's break this all the way down because this story is more twisted than a whole season of Power. So, let's rewind the tape. Cash Out wasn't always a headline for all the wrong reasons. Nah. Back in the early 2000s and 10s, this Atlanta rapper was that dude. He blew up with his hit single, Cashing Out. Remember that one? I'm cashing out, swag. That track had everybody vibing, from the block to the rooftop parties. It went platinum, had folks quoting him like gospel. Now, behind the fame was a story that felt like redemption. Born on August 15, 1990, he came up in one of the rawest times in Atlanta hip-hop. The city was poppin', think trap legends, club anthems, and rap turning into royalty. But Cash Out? His beginnings weren't red carpets and platinum plaques. Nah, he was out in these streets. Real ones know what that means. Back in 2009, he got caught up in Clayton County, Georgia with a strap. He was just 19. And y'all know what it means when a young black man gets caught with a gun down south. It don't usually end pretty, but somehow, someway, he beat the case, acquitted. That moment right there, that was supposed to be his clean slate, a fresh shot at life. He even said it himself. God gave him a second chance to ditch the streets and pick up the mic. That's the kind of hood fairy tale we eat up, right? The trap king turned rapper, from hustling to hustling beats.
In my situation, you know, certain things make you, and certain people who come to you make you go another way, you feel me? And I'm glad, you know, that person, you know, in that situation, you know, that God put me through, you know, made me go towards the music, you feel me? And now look at what happened, you feel me? Like, it's a hustle for me now.
That's why people rocked with him so hard. He wasn't out here faking like he didn't come from the bottom. He was real about it. And when he caught that break, he ran with it. Signed with bases loaded, started cooking up in the booth, and boom. That hit Cashing Out got re-released by Epic Records under L.A. Reid in 2012. After that, it was everywhere. Clubs, strip joints, radios, house parties, you name it. That track dominated. Number 2 on the hot R&B hip-hop songs, and it topped the hot rap songs chart. Even the big dogs like Ludacris, Crazy Bone, Young Jeezy, Chief Keef, and Akon, they jumped on the remix or dropped freestyles. You don't get that kind of cosign unless you're solidified. And he followed it up with bangers like Big Booty in 2012 and then She Twerkin' in 2014. That one? The strip clubs went bananas. That same year, he dropped his album Let's Get It. It did decent on the Billboard 200 and he was collabing with heavy hitters. Future, Lil Durk, Migos. This wasn't no random feature play. These were his people, like ATL royalty. And guess what? He even popped up in the 2019 movie Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. So not only was he still relevant, but he was crossing over. The redemption arc was looking real. But y'all, behind all that, something real dark was bubbling under the surface. 'Cause while he had us all believing he left the streets, the feds say he never did. Not really. They claim he was building a whole criminal empire using his music label, Pyre's Music Group LLC, as a front. But not just any crime. We talking some of the most disturbing, gut-wrenching stuff you can imagine. The first crack in his public image came in 2019 when he got picked up in Gwinnett County, Georgia, during a prostitution sting. Most people didn't pay it much attention. Just another rapper caught up, right? But oh, that was just the beginning of his fall from grace.
As far as, you know, getting in trouble, catching cases and catching a serious case. And
yeah, you caught
2 serious cases, you
What
know.
was it? Talk about those cases.
Just some, you know, I got caught into, you know, I don't really get into it like that, you feel me?
Okay, it's public record.
Yeah,
that's
you,
fine.
yeah.
I'm not asking you.
You never know, they might try to bring something back up on you, but I'm just blessed that it was not guilty verdict.
Looking back now, you can tell something was off. Dude was always real slick and vague in interviews when his legal troubles came up. At the time, it felt like he was just trying not to incriminate himself, but now it's like he was dodging landmines. And he was always preaching about loyalty, keeping your circle tight, surrounding yourself with people who've been through it with you. Turns out those people weren't just homies, they were co-conspirators. Like, y'all ready for this? His own mother, Mama Cash Out, and his cousin, Tyrone Taylor, were part of the operation. Yes, Mama. Blood family. They weren't just aware of what was going on, they were allegedly active participants. That ain't loyalty. That's a whole criminal empire being run like a family business. What's wild is that all this time, people thought Cash Out had escaped the streets. But apparently, he just cleaned it up, put a chain on it, and called it a record label. That's the thing. Sometimes remembering where you came from turns into an excuse to never really leave. From the red carpets to radio plays, he was living 2 lives. And when the charges finally dropped, man, It was like pulling the curtain back on a monster. Because the trial, it was a straight-up nightmare. Fulton County Superior Court, June 3, 2025. Judge Melanie Lage presiding. From jump, this wasn't your typical trial. The press was out. The courtroom was packed. The energy? Tense. The DA, Ernell Winfrey, called it a 7-year reign of terror. 7 years, y'all. He wasn't just facing basic charges either. Nah. He got slapped with 13 counts. Rape, aggravated sodomy, human trafficking, racketeering, you name it. It was like he turned his entire brand, his whole come-up, into bait for vulnerable women. The feds painted a horrifying picture. He used his fame and music platform to lure women in, promising success and opportunity. But behind the scenes, violence, coercion, trafficking, victims testified that he'd have them drop off their earnings in kitchen drawers. Some said they weren't even allowed to eat unless they turned tricks. Another victim said he told her to leave his name out if she ever talked to the cops. Like, are you hearing this? This man wasn't just committing crimes, he was coaching victims on how to protect him. They had everything: texts, phone records, bank statements. He wasn't moving slick enough in the digital age. Phones don't lie. But what made the jury's stomach turn were the testimonies. These women weren't just exploited, they were broken. One survivor said she only got food if she performed sex acts. Another said she still fears he'll kill her someday. This ain't about groupies gone wrong. This was calculated, organized, and heartless. His mother, Linda Smith, aka Mama Cash, she was in it deep. They had receipts. Digital payments from the women went straight to her. She wasn't just looking the other way. She was allegedly running part of the show. And get this, there were jailhouse recordings where Cash Out was literally telling Mama to go find a witness. Prosecutors said it was witness intimidation. Even locked up, he was trying to control the narrative. And when the defense tried to push back, saying victims weren't credible, that they reconnected with him after the abuse, that they were pressured into testifying, it didn't stick. The jury saw through it. But what really blew everyone's mind,
you know, it's a hard decision, and I felt like they made the wrong judgment. I've done things in my life, I'm not perfect, but the things I've been accused of, I know that I haven't done those things.
Compared himself to Jesus. Like, are you serious? Jesus
was falsely accused. A lot of the prophets were falsely accused. You don't have that emotion like you've done something.
You sitting there, facing rape and trafficking charges, and you got the nerve to say you're being persecuted like Jesus? That's beyond delusion. That's straight up narcissism. And if you thought that was the peak of delusion, just wait till the victims took the mic. These women stood up and poured their pain out in the courtroom. One survivor said she felt disgusting and unlovable because of what he did to her. Another, she said, "For the rest of my life, I will fear that he will kill me, all because I wouldn't do what he wanted me to do." You can't make that up. That's real trauma. These women weren't just abused, they were psychologically destroyed. Diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety, lives ripped apart. And this dude was in court acting like he was the one being wronged. One victim's parents said, and I quote, "He literally stole the souls of all the women they victimized." Let that sit for a minute, because this wasn't just about sex work. It wasn't about fast money or poor decisions. This was exploitation of the worst kind. Systematic, organized, and absolutely soulless. And then the prosecution dropped the final hammer. They exposed how Cash Out and his crew ran this operation for years. We're talking hotel rooms near Fulton Industrial Boulevard, a house in Carroll Heights. These weren't one-off spots. They were hubs. They had systems. This was a business of human trafficking. The digital evidence nailed it. Text messages, money trails, everything showing how he controlled these women's finances, their lives, down to the fear they lived with daily. And then came verdict day, July 18th, 2025. Everyone in that courtroom knew the weight of what was about to happen. 7 weeks of testimony, hundreds of pieces of evidence. The courtroom was heavy. No one breathed when the jury foreman stood up. Guilty on 12 counts, RICO violations, rape, aggravated sodomy, 2 counts of sex trafficking, battery, firearms possession, pimping, pandering, obstruction, contraband as an inmate. This dude was cooked. The only thing he beat? A couple lesser charges. But come on, when you get hit with the rest of that, you're not walking out. Ever. His mama, Linda Smith, guilty on RICO and trafficking, acquitted on 1 trafficking charge and a prostitution charge, but still, she was done. And cousin Tyrone Taylor, found guilty on almost everything except pimping. 3 days later, sentencing day. And this is where it got even more emotional. Victims and their families stood up again. They didn't hold back. One woman, she said, even with Cash Out in custody, she lives every day terrified he might come back and kill her. That's how deep the psychological scars go. Another family member called it what it really was, soul theft. And then came Cash Out's moment to speak.
I met women, I dated women who were doing escort or whatever, however people want to look at it from a moral standpoint, but who was doing these things as a grown woman. I've only dealt with grown women. Nothing was forced, nothing was coerced or anything of that nature. If you notice, before this trial, no woman can say anything about me before this trial. If you notice, before this indictment, no woman can say anything about me before this indictment.
This actual man, got up and said everything was consensual. After being convicted of rape, sodomy, trafficking, he really stood there like he was the victim, like the world was out to get him, like justice was a joke. But the biggest contrast? His mother, Linda. She stood up and actually showed something resembling humanity. She expressed remorse. Yeah.
I'm so sorry for the victims, and I pray for them and will continue to pray. Because God says, if you love me, you love others. And when I pray wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Too little, too late, Mama Cash. But at least you owned up to something, unlike your son. And then Judge Lige spoke. Ooh. The tone in her voice? Cold, sharp, final. She didn't.
During the course of this trial, the court heard and viewed evidence demonstrating the very worst of human behavior toward other human beings. The jury verdict in this case reflects that the state met its burden in proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the diabolical conduct of the defendants occurred. The sentencing to be meted out by this court will be responsive to that.
Just call this conduct evil. She called it diabolical. She didn't hold back. And the sentence? Life. Plus 70 years. Cash out.
On count 1, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 10. On count 10, rape, life in confinement. Count 12, aggravated sodomy, life in confinement to run concurrent with count 10.
Out was never getting out. Life plus 70 years. Done. His mom, Linda Smith, 30 years. Cousin Tyrone, life plus 70. All registered sex offenders, all banned from ever contacting their victims. But this was bigger than just one rapper falling off. It exposed how fame and street cred can cover up pure evil. His label? Allegedly a front for trafficking women for 7 years. This case forced hip-hop to face some ugly truths about misogyny, crime, and how far some will go to keep an image. But the real strength came from the victims. They spoke out. They exposed him. They tore his empire down. Cash Out's 2009 second chance? He wasted it. And then, boom! July 25th, 2025. Found dead in prison. Inmates didn't want a predator sharing their space. From rap star to a violent end behind bars. No appeal, no comeback, just a dark legacy revealed too late. Not everything that shines is gold. Sometimes it's a mask for a monster.